Okay, so here we're starting off with the passive stretch and we're starting on the neck. So we're just in a half kneeling position here and just bringing our head into side bend flexion. Swapping sides there now as well. And just getting a good stretch kind of into your upper trap and into those neck muscles. We're then just moving across into a little bit of rotation. So you can see I'm adding a small bit of overpressure here just to get a little bit of extra movement. This is important in the swing as we rotate our shoulder under our chin during the swing, so it's important to be moving well throughout this motion. Moving on into the shoulders now, we're just pulling the shoulder across into adduction, which is across the body. Obviously enough, pretty important movement in the swing as well. So it's one that's worth doing, just holding that passive stretch for 20 seconds or so. Then we're just sitting back, we're kind of moving into back movements now, so stretching out the bottom of the lower back. We bring our hands to either side and from there we get a nice stretch down along our lats or down the side of our back muscles. Moving forward now into back extension. We're trying to drop our hips to the floor here. If you need to drop your elbows, do so, but it's important that your hips are on the floor and you're looking up to the ceiling and just sitting back onto our heels again. Here now again, we're focusing in on the lower back and getting a stretch in the glute muscle. So we're just sitting, lying on our back. Bring your sole of your shoe down towards the ground and you can apply pressure to the knee to add a little bit more to the stretch. Make sure we're doing both sides, and again you're holding this longer than I'm demonstrating in the video to get a good stretch through the muscles. Moving into the front of the leg now, we're stretching out the quad and we can roll back into rotation here. The key is to keep your knee out of the air. Your knee is going to want to rise towards the ceiling, so you're pushing that top knee down towards the ground. Now we're moving into a hamstring stretch and kind of a neural floss as well. So if you've got some neural tension up along the backs of your legs, this one would be fantastic for that. I like just moving my knee in and out of extension and flexion just to get some active range of motion in there. Lastly, on the passive stretching, we're just getting into the groin muscle. So we're just sitting back towards our heel. If you can get your foot flat in the ground like I have in the video, great, but if you need to stay up in your instep, that's fine also. Moving into active range of motion here now, we're starting with the shoulder. So do nice slow rotations. We are doing this in slow motion. The key here is to keep your hand as close to your midline as possible, so fighting that arm back towards your spine the whole time throughout that range of motion. Staying with the shoulder, this exercise is called shoulder dislocates. Again, doing it nice and slowly. We're trying to warm up the rotator cuffs here, trying to keep your hands as far away from the ground as possible throughout the movement with good tension on the band throughout. Staying on the shoulder, we're working through some external rotation movement. Very important in the swing to be able to achieve good end range external rotation. On the right arm in the backswing and in the left arm in the follow through for a right-sided golfer. We stay working through this external rotation for quite a bit, and you're doing roughly 10 to 12 reps with each of those exercises there. Moving on to the spine now, we're moving to the open book stretch. We're looking to open out the spine in through rotation and get both shoulders flat in the ground before we return. Staying with rotation, we're in a crawling position and we're up and down, and the key here is to get to end range of motion, always fighting through that mobility block. The T-spine reach is up next. We're reaching under the body and you're looking to keep your head under your midline, not sway from side to side. So just dropping that shoulder down underneath where your chest was pointing. Sitting back into the groin position, we're rotating from there. This is a really nice one. You should get a good stretch through your groin and obviously moving nicely through rotation here as well. Very functional movement. Starting in a plank position from here, we bring one leg up outside the hand and perform some rotations. We get a nice stretch in the glute here also, and we're swapping side. And again, just making sure that we're getting to that end range of motion and always trying to improve on it as we are warming up for the swing. Moving into the hips now, we're moving through the 90-90. In this first description, I have my hands down, giving myself a bit of assistance. Then we get the hands up, either hold on to a golf club or a band, and just trying to move through that full range of motion again. Hands in behind here now, we're just working on good hip rotation, trying to hit that end range. So trying to get both knees down to the ground. If you need to rotate your upper body a little bit for assistance, go for that. This exercise is called an inchworm. We're touching down, getting a stretch in our hamstrings, and this is a nice little combo that I just like to do. I'm performing 2 shoulder taps here. Bring that leg up and rotate like we did just a moment ago, and swap sides. You can do 3 to 4 of these reps, 2 shoulder taps, and walk back in your inchworm. Next up, we're moving into the side plank position and we're performing some rotations from here. We're really looking to fire up the body now at this stage and get good stability through the core. Moving into some bear walks, very difficult exercise, and we're just trying to keep very stable. Imagine you'd a golf ball on your lower back and you're trying to keep it there. Up and down into a high plank and a low plank. Moving into a rotation from there. Again, just trying to really get that core stabilized and warmed up before we get out in the range. Some glute bridge walkout now. We're working on some hip stability, and we can give a reach back with a band or a golf club to make the exercise a little bit more difficult and more functional. Glute marches there now as well, and again just working on good hip stability. Moving that now into a single leg glute bridge, getting a little bit more difficult, and we're trying to keep the hips stable. From there we can move into some pelvic rotations. Really important in the swing to be able to dissociate your lower and your upper half, and this exercise will help you achieve that. Moving into some balance exercises now. This one is called the star excursion. So we're reaching back into the side with one leg. We can perform this exercise on both sides, but you can see on the standing leg I'm really loading. This is really functional in the golf swing. Moving into more exercises similar to the last, the single leg RDL. Again, really functional and just firing up the posterior chain. Nice reach out in front to get a good stretch in the upper body. Single leg rotations. Again, this will feel very natural to the golf swing. We shift our weight from one side to the other on the swing, so it's important to have good stability, and warming that stability up is vitally important. Now we're moving into the power section of the warm-up. So we're getting the bands moving a little bit faster, trying to move our body fast, and really now we're getting ready to get onto the course. If we have a kettlebell at our disposal, we're swinging it from side to side. You can see my legs are quite active during this movement, as they would be in the swing, and we're just trying to get as much movement through the lower body as we can. Kettlebell swings, working on some vertical force, really good. Just get the hips fired up now and we're ready to go. We've only got a couple of movements left. From a half kneeling position, we're going to lock in that core. Big full rotation, press it out. We can do this from a seated position as well. Rotate, press, and our core is going to be on fire after this, and we'll be ready to go. Some rotations, again, we can use a club or a band here, where we're working on developing force from the ground up. So we're pushing up from our feet and following through with our hands. Into our jumps to finish things off. So here we're taking a little break in between each one and looking for max height. We can move into some rotation work here again, just to work on some sequencing. So if your sequencing's off here, you're not going to jump very high and your landing's going to be unstable. Lastly then, we're moving into some single leg jumps, developing some lower body force, and then we're into lateral movements from side to side to finish off the warm-up. You're ready to go for the range now.